Welcome back to the College Football UK podcast brought to you by the AEW Network. I am your host, Fletch, and as always, I am joined by my co hosts, Nick, Gary, and Sam. Gents, how are we this week?
Yeah, good.
Um, yeah, up and down.
Not quite the calm in the eye of the calm of the calm of the eye storm this week.
I see. I didn't think I said that, but what the point I was trying to make is that the podcast was the calm of my whole week because my week was just crazy,
Your
and I
week was
didn't
the storm.
realize.
Yeah.
Yeah, the week was the storm, and the pod was the calm. But I didn't realize that's what I didn't say, and yeah. So
No, no, I got what you meant. My thing was just like, we are the car, and that's a bad thing. Like, if something's
If we're
wrong,
the calm
this,
thing, then yeah.
this is the bit where you go, this is where it's calm.
uh, after last night, this is calm again.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, last night was great for me. I don't know about you.
Well, you know.
Some of us actually managed to stay in a competition.
Well, the way I'm playing the long game, that means we don't have a Champions League game the midweek before we play
That's
Arsenal
the
now.
excuse you're going with now.
Yeah, that's what I'm going with now.
That's your copium.
Yeah.
Anyway, today we start our NFL Draft 2026 coverage. We'll go over the next 6 weeks. We're going to do 5 episodes on different positions. And I think the idea being like today we're going to go quarterbacks and running backs. And there's a clear story here in the fact that there are two clear front runners at both positions. And then after that, it's a bit of a, well, we can all make our own minds up after that. Before we get into it, though, don't forget you can follow us in the AEW Network on social media, join our free to join Discord server, and you can find all the relevant links and information in the description of this episode. If you are on YouTube, they are right below our faces, and if you are listening on Spotify, then they or Apple, you can find them inside the app in which you are listening on. One of the things about the Discord as well, we've got a free to join March Madness bracket, which officially kicks in tomorrow, so you can join that if that's your thing. However, to get us started, go straight to Nick's news. Breaking: AAW have been hit with a copyright strike.
Tell you what, for all the criticism last week when it was just me and you, I did miss Gary's. I was like,
I
oh.
heard you hold up when you said it was Nick's news, and I could feel you. I could
I
hear you sort of
waited.
going.
I waited. For,
Where's
there
the
was, there was none. I was like, oh, right, okay,
Yeah.
carry on. Yeah. So, I guess the biggest news to come out in the last day or two was Dante Moore's declared that he had mental health issues that he sought help for while he was at UCLA. This has more to do with his mother had been diagnosed with cancer and she was dealing with that. He was one of the better players at UCLA. He was expected to lead the team, and he's come out and just said that he was having, he was having problems, he was having issues, and that he sought help, and he just said that everyone else needs to be doing the same. Now, I know AJ Green had an article on it this week as well. He's done an interview because he was at Arizona with the guy that's
Rondell Moore.
Rondell Moore, that's the one. They overlapped for 2 years, and he was just saying that more needs to be done by the people that run the game. So that was something I thought it was essential to bring up. As we're moving into the draft, Boston failed to post a 40-yard dash time at his Washington Pro Day yesterday. Don't
Or
he
couldn't make
chose not
40
to
yards, or just didn't bother running.
just didn't bother running. He didn't run at the combine, and he didn't run at his pro day. Wide receiver Casey Concepcion has had his knee scoped. The arthroscopic surgery was described as routine. I don't know whether you can call any surgery routine, but he should be ready for rookie minicamp. What else have we got? NC State wide receiver Teddy Hoffman has been suspended for a positive PED test. With the NCAA, a suspension is usually 1 calendar year. So I'm not sure whether he's a junior or a senior now. I think he's a senior. So this will be his last year of college. Not a great year to miss. Louisiana Tech have been scheduled on both the Conference USA and the Sun Belt schedule.
Yes.
So they've got to play
16
20
games. Was it
They've got to
20?
play,
Is it?
yeah,
20.
20 games they've got to play this season. According to Louisiana Tech, they're leaving for the Sun Belt on July the 1st. According to the Sun Belt, they expect Louisiana Tech on July the 1st. But according to Conference USA, they're not leaving till next year. So,
So Louisiana Tech could hold the record for the best ever season record.
Yeah. So my question to that is, could a 5-loss team make it into the playoffs, given that they'd be a 15-win team at the
15
same
and 5. Yeah. Where would they
Um,
schedule those? No bye weeks, I guess.
I'm sure some money in the right pocket will sort that problem out. Kurt Signetti becomes the first head coach in college football history to drive the honorary pace car at the Indianapolis 500.
I saw that. I thought that amused me because it's like all he does is win, but he's only driving the pace car. I mean,
Yeah,
how's that?
he's still at the front though.
Mhm.
Technically across the line before anyone else will. And finally, my last bit of news, David Cutcliffe is retiring from his role as the SEC Special Assistant to the Commissioner. Now, he said, I leave this game with a full heart and a deep sense of gratitude, especially for the young men I've had the privilege to coach. I am equally thankful for the outstanding coaches, staff members, and administrators who worked alongside me. Now, I can't get any actual authority that this is true, but I believe the third paragraph in his statement is, I'm retiring due to the complete and inept college football playoff system from last year, and I don't want to be associated with it. So
I think that was written in white text on a white background, though, wasn't it? It was
I think
there.
so. Yeah,
It was there.
I had to change. I had to change the visualizations on my screen to be able to see it. You know, blow it up from 0.5 text size all the way up. So fair play to him. He realizes that sometimes it ends
battle.
careers, that kind of behavior. And that's it for the news.
Lovely.
Just on that, I saw something earlier today. I don't know if the rest of you saw it, that the commissioner for the American put a press conference, some sort of statement out that almost kind of said, not going anywhere. The American is here to stay. We'd want to thank the president for whatever he is he's doing. It all sounded very hoorah and whatever else, but I wasn't entirely sure what point he was making, other than I'm not leaving, it seemed, was what I got from the statement. Don't know if anyone else saw it.
To be fair, I did not.
No.
So
shocking.
Yeah, I know. Okay,
looks like there's at least 2 teams in the next round then, so.
Before we get into our draft coverage, we will stop by Fletcher's Trivia of the Week.
I need to get a sound. I need to get a sound clip for that, don't I?
Yeah, you do. So with Fletcher's Trivia of the Week, I'm trying to make this one a little bit more topical. With it being March Madness, technically started yesterday, where Texas made their way from the first 4 into the main bracket itself. I watched that game. It was a very exciting game there, Sam. With March Madness and the college basketball national championship up for grabs over the next few weeks, my question to you is, how many schools, and can you name the schools that have both a national championship in both football and basketball?
Duke.
Duke is not one of them.
Duke don't have a
they
national. They haven't
not in
won a
football,
national.
no.
Not in football. In basketball, definitely.
Michigan.
No.
Michigan is one of them,
Oh,
yes.
wow.
Indiana.
Indiana is the latest team to be added onto that list, as they have won. They have won They've been a basketball school primarily. Now they have a football natty.
I don't think FSU have got basketball.
They do not.
No, I didn't think so. Texas definitely haven't.
Texas are not one of the
No,
teams. Though.
Texas do not do basketball.
Don't
generally.
do basketball. Yeah, generally it's those Midwest sort of. No.
Oregon.
Oregon don't have a football national championship. I don't know about basketball, but I know they definitely don't have a football one.
Definitely haven't got football.
Well, Ohio would be.
Ohio State, Bama.
Ohio State is one of them, yes.
How many are we looking for?
So there are 11 schools, and you've got 3 of them in Indiana, Michigan, and Ohio State.
LSU.
LSU is not one of those teams.
Georgia.
Georgia is not. No.
See, I don't even follow NBA, let alone college.
I'm struggling with
basketball.
Maryland. I want to say Maryland, but I don't think Maryland have got a football natty.
Maryland do have a national championship in both football and basketball.
Ooh.
And what I will say on this as well, a bit of a qualifier, is obviously the school would have to be FBS. It'd have to be, or a Division 1A national championship. But then also it would, with football, they are claimed. The claimed national championships are included in this.
Well, so you're going back a few years then.
So you could theoretically have a claimed national championship in 1927 and make this list.
I had a news article last year about a team that claimed about 10 national championships that they found behind their sofa. What was that? Was that Kentucky? No, it can't. No, I don't think it was Kentucky.
I remember who it was.
Some weird ones.
Yeah. Who was the?
Is there any in California?
There are 2. No, 3.
UCLA?
3.
USC
UCLA is
then.
one of them. USC is not one of them.
Stanford?
Cal Bears?
Stanford is one of them, yeah.
Cal Bears then? No, Cal.
Cal is one of them, yeah.
Wow. Flying.
So far,
where else plays basketball?
Cal,
Arizona?
Indiana, Maryland, Michigan, Ohio State, Stanford, and UCLA. And you are missing 1, 2, 3, 4 more.
Only on the East Coast.
I think all of them are East Coast now, or East. So in the eastern part of the states.
Boston College.
Boston College
Georgia Tech. No
Georgia Tech.
Miami.
No Miami.
Connecticut.
UConn. No.
NC. No.
Give you one more clue. 2 of them are in the SEC. 1 of them is in the Big Ten, and 1 of them is in the ACC.
Carolina. Must be a no Carolinas.
Clemson?
No Clemson.
Wake Forest? No.
Go on, I'm out.
Virginia Tech?
Virginia Tech, no.
Ole Miss.
West Virginia.
Ole Miss, no. West Virginia, no.
But you can see that our basketball knowledge is failing us miserably here.
Yeah.
So
I thought Duke was a good shout, though.
Duke would have been a good shout. But the other 4 that are remaining that you did not get, unfortunately, are Arkansas.
I was about to say
Razorbacks. The Razorbacks.
Didn't think of it.
What was your next guess, Sam?
It genuinely was my next guess. I just didn't say it because I didn't think they'd won a football Natty. Natty.
Then you've got Florida, who are the reigning national champions in college basketball. They won the tournament last
The
year,
Gators. Wow.
the Gators. I'm glad you didn't get this one because it was Michigan State, and I don't want to give them any props for anything they've ever done in their history. And Syracuse.
Syracuse. There you go. I thought we did all right at the start, though. I thought we got
There you go.
actually getting some of them. I thought,
One of the really good points that you kind of made, Gary, was look at some of those Midwest teams because again, if you look at some of them who may have had football success in the 40s and 50s and claimed they're natty dead, and have gone on to have decent basketball success as a Midwest team in more recent years. Indiana was a great shout though. Indiana was a brilliant one. Anyway, so let's get straight into our 2026 draft talk. Starting with QBs and running backs. Do you want to go QBs first?
it's the one that everyone puts first, isn't it? For whatever reason,
Well,
most important general of the team, all that gubbins.
I'm gonna ask the question, and Nick, I'm gonna throw straight to you here, and the beautiful board that is right behind you. That's become a staple of this podcast at this time of year. There is a clear front runner in this race, and in my opinion, what looks to be a clear top two, although number two is debated a little bit. What happens after Mendoza right now? And if you would like to let us know where your board is on this as well.
Yeah, I've got up
What,
here. I've
Mendoza?
got Fernando Mendoza at 1. I've given Ty Simpson a first round grade.
Ooh.
That's not to say that he'll go first round, but someone could trade back in at the back end to pinch him because obviously by
Plus the year option and all that.
taking him you get the 5th year option and what have you. So I felt it was only fair to give him a first round grade considering how big the drop off is from him to the rest. Nussmeier I've got at 3, but he's a 3rd round one for me. Carson Beck I've got 4 as a 3rd round, and then
Maybe got
beyond
Drew
the 4th round and onwards I've got Cade Kubnik, Drew Allard, and Taylor Green. And Taylor Green is
a Taysom Hill. He's a Taysom Hill-esque, isn't he?
I know I'm falling in love with him very, very quickly.
Somebody's going to take a punt at him and play him like a Taysom Hill tight end, QB, wildcat. Yeah, he's got
But it's like just before we get into it, it's like every year I find there's a player that I'll find like deep in say 3rd or 4th round, and no matter how much I watch him, I just start loving him more, and then as the season progresses and the draft season progresses, he just climbs up more and more boards to eventually he's actually considered a really, really good player. And I think, I was paid. It's like last year it was Nicky Manwari, and I was screaming about him when he was way down in sort of the 4th round, and this year it's been Jacob Rodriguez at Texas Tech, and he's now almost on a first round grade as well. And I've been eyes on him since he was a 4th rounder supposedly. So there are players that they sit there and you warm up to them because you just watch them constantly. But I don't think Taylor Green's got a future in the NFL as a QB, maybe as a 3rd string, but like you said, a Taysom Hill sort of speciality.
Swiss Army knife. Yeah, absolutely. But I think I agree with that. What he's got there is.
It sounds very XFL-y.
Yeah. But I think what you're saying there, what Nick's saying there, and what you've just said there, Fletch, is the clear and out levels are Mendoza's up here. Simpson's maybe around Tua, but as you say, Nick, will probably go 32nd, 31, 32, because someone will trade back in for that last one to get the 5th year. And then it's like a big wait for the next QB off the board because, unfortunately, those ones who we we bigged up at this time last season, who we thought were going to be the be all and end all, they did not do so well in the season just gone. So their draft stock has taken a bit of a tanking.
Yeah. It shows you that like how little you should pay attention to anyone's projections a year in advance.
Yeah.
And it's fun. I don't get me wrong. I don't get some people absolutely despise it. I think it's a little bit of fun to do to do the predictions and say, here's who I think could be really good next year, and but don't put any real weight into it in terms of this is how it is, right? This is but let's start with Mendoza, I think, and just why is Mendoza, take the Heisman out of it, take the Natty out of it. If you put all of these QBs in a room, why does Mendoza walk away the clear number one?
Um, his ability to throw under pressure. If you watch, he's very much like, reminds me of the GOAT. He reminds me of Brady, because Brady used to sit in that pocket and not go anywhere because he couldn't run. Brady could never run anywhere, so he could never escape. So Brady used to stick in there as long as possible and throw it at the last second. Mendoza's like that. You go back to the Penn State game that he had, but they won in the last second. You
Yeah.
know, he was hanging in that pocket throughout the game, getting absolutely battered because he just would not give up. And I like that in a not necessarily in a QB, but in a player. You know,
Yeah.
someone who's going to run through a wall, someone who's going to, you know, give absolutely put his body on the line and just keep going, keep going. You know, that's if you could
Yeah.
field a team of 11 of those, you do really well.
Yeah, it's
But
that I suppose it's grit as they call it, or some, the terminology's bandied around, but epitomized by, I suppose, the TD run in the Natty, where he kind of ran through a wall, dived, puts his body on the line, lifted the whole team. I think the Oregon game as well was quite important during the season, and as Nick alluded to there, that Penn State game where he just kind of gritted it out. It just elevates him above the others who are much of a muchness. There's
and
nothing that in the
his
rest of them that stand out.
mechanics, his QB mechanics, if you watch the way he holds the ball, the way he throws the ball, he's his feet and where his feet are positioned in relation to his upper body. He's not contorted. He's
He's not
not trying to
twisting. He's
power
not using his
through.
yeah. He's not
Yeah,
using his upper body, is he, to get the power? He's actually
his ability under pressure, his toughness. Um, yeah, I really like the guy. If I sort of like, if I can try and relate it to last year, obviously number one was Cam Ward, and he was well out in front.
yeah
Now I find it very hard to pick between them because I think they're two very different players. If you want that running style QB, then you would go for, say, Cam Ward. But if you
yeah.
wanted that pocket guy, you'd go for Mendoza. But if I take both of them and apply them the year earlier, when you had Caleb Williams, Jalen Daniels, and Drake May, who were the first, who were,
First three off the
three
board, near
out of the
enough, weren't
first four out off the board, I would probably put Mendoza and Cam Ward between Jalen Daniels and Drake May. Now that's not Drake May now. That's Drake May when he was coming out the
it?
draft. So it sort of gives you, if you look back over the last sort of two drafts, it gives you an idea of where Mendoza is currently compared to other guys that came out in his position.
Yeah.
So
For me though, the biggest concern with Mendoza is his as good as he is in the pocket, and this is more on me thinking about where he's going in terms
Yeah,
of the Raiders, is his if he is forced out of that pocket or forced off his initial stance and where he wants to throw in his launch projection, he really struggles with that.
Yeah.
And that's something he's going to have to learn extremely fast if he's, especially with going to the Raiders.
He goes to the Raiders.
It's been atrocious, and obviously they've really worked on trying to bring in players in the off season. But my worry with that is that he could potentially, I always have
Baptism of
this
fire, almost, isn't it?
Yeah, I always have this real issue with quarterbacks going in and being in the starting position from the off. I always think quarterbacks should be given at least a year to sit behind.
Yeah.
But given the quarterbacks that are there, I think he probably is the most capable to succeed as a starter in week one of year one.
Yeah.
Not necessarily as a Raider, but I think he is not to like say that he's going to be like amazing, but what I mean is like of the skills that he has and what he has the ability to do. When you look at all of the QBs from this class, for me, he's the one that is more ready to be a starter in week one than I think the rest of them are. But I also don't think he should be a starter in week one anyway.
I think it's going to take him a while to get used to that playing under center, though, because he's not had a lot of that. That is one of the things that obviously QBs in the NFL, that's what they like. He's done a lot from shotgun. He's not done a lot from under center, so he's going to have to work on that. And as you say, Sam, when he's flushed out the pocket and he's not able to kind of set his feet, his accuracy stats do kind of tank off a bit. So, like anything coming out of college, there's work to be done. Nobody's a perfect fit. Nobody's ready to go.
However, I do think one of the key points, especially I think for a rookie quarterback coming into the NFL being a starter, for me, the most important position to assist, apart from the O-line, to assist with a QB like that is a tight end.
Yeah.
Because we always see that rookie quarterbacks lean on their tight ends as much as they need to. And when you've got a tight end like Brock Bowers, he has probably arguably one of the best.
He's got two of the best tight ends, haven't he? He's not. I mean, the other tight end that the Raiders took the year before wasn't bad either, was he?
Well, he was good coming out of college, but he's not really
not actually done anything at.
Yeah. But even so, I mean, Brock Bowers is a great option to have as your comfort blanket when you're sort of needing,
And having Genty in the backfield isn't bad either.
No.
I think. Oh, exactly. This is what I was going to say. Was like, why do quarterbacks coming out of college tend to, in their rookie years, favor tight ends? Because it's the routes and the routes and all that sort of stuff that the tight ends and the running backs will tend to occupy. You're not pushing it downfield, and you don't really want to have your rookie in game 3 pushing the ball downfield where possible, because they're trying to play hero ball. And when you've got half a second less to process and get the ball out, otherwise you're on your back and crying, begging to go home. You've got there's so much less that you can do until you have because the speed of the game is so much different in the NFL. And that's the number one thing you see is just how fast it is. Your cornerbacks are faster and smarter. They waste less movement. They know how to make those certain things happen. And one of the things for me with Mendoza is I keep looking at him and saying, when I look at every other one of these prospects, I'm like, he's not got the biggest arm. He's got a good arm. And this is not, he can sling it, but not to the rate of some other quarterbacks. He's not the best dual threat quarterback, although let's not take away anything from that play in the Natty when he plays.
That was just guts, wasn't it? That was just guts.
And he runs. But what he does is he's such a well-rounded prospect in he's so accurate when he does have the ball and he's able to make passes. When he can do some of that move and he can somewhat start to extend plays when pressured in the pocket. It's his poise, it's the accuracy, it's the fact that he is able to see success in all 3 phases of the downfield, and the fact that his mentality throughout everything is so squeaky clean. And I don't think you're going to have one problem with he gets sacked on a play and it's a forced fumble, maybe even goes for a scoop and score, he'll be back up and ready to go on the next play as if that never happened. And you saw that repeatedly throughout his career in college, where, especially in Indiana, where how many games did he throw an early interception?
Yeah.
How many times did he throw a silly interception that should never have really happened because he forced it a little bit, or he relied a little bit too much on his accuracy or his ability to throw into a tight window when it didn't quite work for him. But the mentality for him to come straight back and crack on with it is something that NFL teams are going to love about him. I say NFL teams, the Raiders are going to love about him. And look at the Raiders spending in free agency, where a good chunk of that money gone. They've got some okay pieces at wide receiver. They've invested in the offensive line and got some veteran pieces on the offensive line. So
Got a
hopefully,
veteran piece on the defensive line as well, didn't
yeah, acquired him from the Baltimore Ravens.
he?
The Raiders are trying to do things clearly right by him
Yeah.
and not letting him walk into a complete and utter dumpster fire.
But it is still
I think that's the New York Jets.
That's the Jets.
and the Dolphins.
Yeah.
And the Cardinals, right? And
Yeah, but there's a few dumpster fires in the National Football League, and until they are not, the Raiders will be one of them. But by the looks of things, they're trying not to be.
yeah.
They have just got him the most expensive center ever in history.
Mhm.
So at least he'll have someone decent like snapping the ball to him.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think that, yeah, you're right. The Raiders are. I mean, we all know he's going number one. He's going to the Raiders. I don't think there's any shadow of a doubt, unless I can't see any other way. Nobody's trading up. Nobody's selling the house. He's not.
No.
He's not that good a QB for anyone to, trade away to try and get that first pick off the Raiders.
I think the moment that you could tell from the way that they've gone into free agency that they had already decided they knew where they were going with that pick.
Yeah.
They'd made that decision off the bat and thought we need to now give him options. I mean, they even got rid of Geno Smith because they knew they wanted
Vontae Mack, no matter what.
Yeah.
Ooh,
As it goes.
Funny styles, no matter what, wasn't it? Anyway.
You look at some of these. I mean, most years by now we kind of know who's going first. I can't remember the last time I watched a draft or was following up with a draft where I didn't really know who was going to go number one overall. The last time we knew this far in advance, I think, was Trevor Lawrence, where the season hadn't finished yet, and it was just like, just give him the Jags playbook now.
Just give it to yeah.
Give him a head start on that playbook.
I think the last one.
Finger.
I think the last one that I remember purposely, I wasn't sure which way it was going to go, was Andrew Luck and what's it? The third Griffin.
Yeah.
RG3. Yeah.
RG3, because I felt that RG3 I thought Andrew Luck had a higher floor, but I thought RG3 might have a higher ceiling. Now, obviously, he got suffered so many injuries and what have you, but that's going to happen getting run over. But I think that's the last draft that I remember where there was a decision
who's
where
going
I
to be
wasn't
one.
sure. Yeah.
But I mean, as you said,
I can't remember one since then.
I can't remember any draft in the last 8 to 10 years where the top ranked QB has not been the number one pick.
2022.
No,
That was the year
felt-
Trayvon Walker went first, and then Aiden Hutchinson went second, and then it was a good few picks before a QB came off the board.
Yeah, because there wasn't a good QB room, was it? It's not good.
But the QB that came off the board was still the number one QB.
Yeah.
I think if it hadn't been for the fact that
11th,
the Raiders are desperate for a quarterback, it wouldn't have shocked me had Mendoza dropped. I only think he's going at number one because the Raiders had the number one pick and they thought we need a quarterback. quarterback.
We need a QB in the next 5 years, 4 or 5
Whereas,
years,
yeah,
while we get
whereas
Yeah.
I think you look at a lot of the other teams that are around that pick. Obviously, I know that things have now changed, but I mean, the Cardinals, they still had Kyler Murray at the time. Obviously, they've moved on from Kyler Murray now and are going with Jacoby Brissett, who's capable, and they brought in someone else to back him up who no one cares about. But I think a lot of the other teams have kind of thought, I mean, like obviously the Titans, they've already drafted their quarterback. They don't need one. The Jets are the Jets. So, we don't really need to talk about the Jets.
Who knows what the Jets are going to do?
Like,
they've got their QB for the next year while they tank for Arch
who is
Manning.
it they've got? Is that Geno Wilson?
Gino's gone to the Jets, hasn't he? Gino's gone full
They've not
circle.
learned anything from. They've not learned anything from the Raiders. They've just
They've
gone.
not learned anything for the last 30 years and have gone back to Gino.
No,
Didn't they
no,
draft Gino? Didn't they draft him
have.
20 years ago or
they
something?
drafted him. Yeah,
You just, funnily enough, you just said something there about tanking for Manning, right? Now, did
Is it too
Miami
early to
not learn?
mention it?
Did Miami not learn anything for tanking for Tua? That wasn't necessarily the best option. You've got teams there that are going to want a quarterback next year, and they've all got Manning in their sights. And no offense, Sam, who's to say that Manning is going to be the best QB on the board?
Brendan
And
Chambliss
everyone's
will be the best
tanking.
QB next year, won't he?
Tank for Arch. It's like, well,
I think that the only thing I would say to that is that obviously the name carries a lot, and it does. But I
Yeah.
think if he can continue the way that he finished the season, then there's no doubt that he could be the number one pick. But there are just as good QBs who could come out of college and be that
Yeah.
number one spot as well. Like it's not a foregone conclusion that it is going to be Manning. I think it's just people see the name, see the fact that he came out of high school as a 5-star recruit, the way he sort of ended the season, and if he can get another season like that with all of the weapons that we've now, obviously Texas are now given him, the argument is there that he should be the number one pick. I guarantee when we look to next season, he's probably going to be in the Heisman conversation yet again. This year is probably a little bit more of a valid reason than last year. But yeah, there's no guarantees. And I mean, we said that, you look at this year's class. I mean, there were talks that Garrett Nussmeier, Cade Klubnik were all going to be number one picks in their draft class. And, obviously we can come on to Nussmeier in a bit, but I mean, even Ty Simpson, people probably looked at him when he was in his first year of college, second year of college, thinking he could quite easily be a number one pick. And, I think he is the number that, for me, he's the undisputed number 2 in this draft class. I think he is, again, the best of the rest, shall we say. He has qualities that could potentially get him, could see him being a good backup for a year and maybe taking a spot in a few years. My only concern with probably the reason why I think he's dropped below that number one spot is he reminds me a little bit of Goff in that he doesn't know when he doesn't
get rid of it.
Yeah, he doesn't know when to get rid of it sometimes. And that's not a dig at him at the Lions. That's a dig at him when he was at LA. He just didn't sometimes know how to get rid of the ball, or he wouldn't make the right decisions because he was too slow in his reads. But that to me is that sort of similar. He seems that very in that sort of ilk of very much a Jared Goff who, has bags of potential, but just doesn't have that, accuracy can be a big issue with Ty Simpson. So I can see him. I very much like with Nick with that one. I think, there were talks that when the Rams had the 29th pick before we traded away from McDuffie, that we were looking at potentially drafting him in the 29th pick. Just because, again, thinking for the future, sitting behind Stafford, learn under Stafford, So I think, he probably is going to be around that. Who would go in for him? I'm not too sure.
That's when you start to scout around and you're looking for somebody there with the QB Two, you're
obviously
looking for somebody who's going to sit in for a year behind a
it's going to be behind a
star.
veteran, isn't it? Like
Yeah, it's going to be
realistically,
behind a
so
veteran. Is it
it's
the
not going to.
Steelers? Is Rodgers coming back? Are they the Steelers still haven't found who they want?
Rogers still hasn't decided what he's doing, has he?
He's still in
So
his darkness retreat or something, isn't he?
yeah, you know, Packers probably wouldn't need someone like a Ty Simpson because
No.
Love. Well, I mean, they possibly could bring him in and have him sit behind him, and if they decide to move on from Love, they've got someone there, maybe.
Maybe.
Obviously, Vikings don't. I mean, Lions potentially. I think they've got other needs to fill, but again,
don't think now we've got an elite backup in Teddy Bridgewater. I don't think that's where we're gonna go.
Hang on. Pioneering law providing Teddy Bridgewater or whatever it is, changing the rules of the game, Teddy Bridgewater.
So
I just struggle to see this is my issue with Ty Simpson about going in the first. I don't know who would be willing to trade up back into the first or trade down
Cardinals.
to get him.
Cardinals might
Jets.
pitch in.
I think the
Jets and
Cardinals-
Cardinals are my two favourites.
I reckon the
I
Cardinals
don't
could.
think.
I don't know.
think-
Miami now. Miami with the amount of picks they've just picked
Well,
up.
no, because Miami have got Willis and they've also just brought in someone else. So
They took the Miami guy last year as well, didn't they?
I think if you are
Will Howard. No, not Will Howard.
he went to
No, the other one.
Kenny Pickett.
No.
They drafted the guy out of Miami last year.
Quinn Ewers.
Yeah.
No, but they've also brought in someone else to back up.
But I was to say,
the
the Steelers are often banded around as a team who could go for Ty Simpson, but they've got Will Howard on the roster. So, like, if you're going to have a young quarterback, why not just stick with Will Howard and after he's now had a year in the system?
I think the Steelers are either sticking with Rodgers, and if Rodgers says no, they're going to Kirk Cousins, and that's it.
So that could be a sensible option for them to potentially look at Ty Simpson as a long-term backup for Kirk Cousins or
Rodgers.
Aaron.
Yeah, but
maybe.
Why is so? I'm gonna correct everyone on this. By the way, there is no tanking for Manning. It's diving for Dante. By the way,
diving for Dante. Oh, right.
We're diving for Dante after this draft.
You think he's going to be that man?
So you've heard
terrible for Trinidad.
I mean, they roll off the tongue, don't they?
He might have not played for a year. To be
He
fair,
might
not. Sit in limbo.
True. That's very true.
So I'm sticking with it. It's dive for Dante. That's where
Minging
I'm
for
with.
Mensa.
Do you know what? I would pay for a ad campaign to take that round the states just to hear the amount of people in the states start saying minging.
Minging?
What's minging?
What does minging mean? Right, how long have you got?
How often do you reckon someone will call it minging?
Yeah. Minging.
Yeah. Well, I can just see that. I can see it kind of evolve into minge for Mensa, and that meaning something totally different. I'm like, well, if that's how you want to get him in the building, it's probably not the best way to do it. Anyway, what is it about Ty Simpson that makes him the clear second then? Because again, when watching Ty Simpson's tape and going back through the season, we know a couple of things about Ty Simpson, and it's that his old line did not help him whatsoever. And that the question was what running game, because Alabama had virtually no running game. So Ty Simpson for most of the season was having to deal with constant pressure, no help from his O-line, and absolutely no other way of getting the ball around the field other than passing the football. He's got, for me, one of the better arms in the draft, and he can make almost all types of throws. He can make throws off platform and off the cuff when needed to. My problem with Ty Simpson, though, is sometimes he is so confident with that arm, it's to a fault, and he really believes that he can make every throw, which means putting the ball in some dangerous places.
Yeah.
However, he did only have one interception last year.
He did, and one of the problems again as well, though, is remember his receivers had 30 drops throughout the year.
Yeah.
I think what makes him stand out above the others is he reads defenses very well. He's able to kind of make his reads better than some of the others. So, you know, when he comes to the line, he's able to go, oh, right. You literally can see that he's really good with his pre-snap work. And that puts him above those other ones that we're going to get into in a minute. But
I
that's
think
that bit.
the fact that he chose to throw at the combine did him the world of good.
Did not hurt at
Because
all. Yeah.
No, because obviously at the beginning of the season he had that run of form where everything was going for him, everything was working, he wasn't
Except against
injured,
FSU.
and it was he was scoring and getting good performances. He then started picking up injuries and niggles and everything else, and his second half of his season tailed off. And I think the fact that he turned up at the combine, he threw, and his accuracy was on. He was really good. He did not do himself any harm at all. Quite the opposite.
And some of the things that, again, it's his accuracy is brilliant.
Yeah.
It really, really is. One of the other problems you've got here, though, is he started for 1 year in his entire career, and he's played 15 games. How
not got a
much
lot
does
of
that?
not a lot of tape there, is there?
Yeah,
less than 2,000 yards in that one season.
Yeah.
19 touchdowns. I mean,
which season?
Season just gone. 19 touchdowns, one reception, one interception.
Am I looking at the same Ty Simpson here?
Simpson threw for 1,954 passing yards, 19 touchdowns, and only one interception, while completing 71.9% of his passes.
Right,
that was during an 8-game stretch, though, Sam.
Yeah. Through the 8-game
so,
stretch. So his first part of his season was utter trash.
Oh, because I've got 3,567 yards and 28 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. I'm like, what the hell's going on here?
No, so this just
when he was hot, he was hot, and then he was
in that
drastically
8-game stretch where he was up against top 4 ranked teams, or top 16 ranked teams. Sorry, was where he had those. So I mean that's impressive.
Yeah.
I think so. Given the O-line, given the receivers dropping balls, and given the fact that
he couldn't hand it off to anyone because there was no running back.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that makes it extra impressive. And I also think, if I'm going to be very, very honest, I think Kalen DeBoer let him down. Kalen DeBoer is not that good a head coach. So I think sometimes those game plans. When you say though about the interceptions as well, Sam, though, is like watching back on some of that tape. Some of those interceptions were drops. DBs have had their ball that ball in 2 hands on multiple occasions and not come down with it, or they've ended up being pass deflections. And it's why I think sometimes, as much as good as the stats are, obviously the tape.
You can't just go with stats, can you?
Well.
Yeah.
I think this is why I think he needs to sit behind someone for a year, someone experienced, because, like I say, one of the big problems that he has is he has this like confidence in his ability, but sometimes it's an overconfidence, and he tries to force passes that really aren't there. And
he tries to keep plays alive a bit as well, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think this is why people were thinking the Rams would be suitable, because, for someone like that to learn under, a Matt Stafford-esque sort of player, I think would really do him the world of good. The problem is that he's not going to be going to the Rams. So, I'm just, again, it goes back to what Tom Brady said, that, QBs have to learn the game, and they're not being given the opportunity to have them start. And I think
the NFL is not a development league, unfortunately, anymore, is it?
And I think Simpson needs to find a team that has almost like a QB specialist head coach who will allow him to learn and develop his understanding and kind of eke those little tweaks out of him that he does. because you know that the moment if he starts a game and he's trying to, you know, find hero balls and that, he's just in the NFL, he's just going to get picked off, and then it's going to ruin his career. So they need to find ways to kind of help him understand his talent and still keep him confident in his talent, but just tweak those little issues that he seems to have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One other thing though, I'm gonna say on Ty Simpson are the things that so a couple of things that again watching the tape over the last couple of days I've really, really enjoyed is the way he is able to read the pocket and climb the pocket at the same time. He senses pressure generally very, very well. But the way he's also able, he uses his eyes really, really well to sell DBs. And it was a couple of plays. I can't remember who it was against. It might have been Ole Miss, where the pre-snap read didn't end up being what the defense was, and one of the safeties had started coming down, and he completely sold the safety and sent him back to the other side of the field in order to make and open up the space for Ryan Williams, who dropped the ball in the end. But the quickness in how he's able to snap his head, get his body in, so pocket presence, mechanics generally, the way he's able to set his feet, get his body in line, and then use his eyes and things like that to sell are really, really, really good. But moving on to another quarterback, someone we kind of thought this about last year was Garrett Nussmeier.
Yep. And he's your number 3, right? I think he seems to be the consensus number 3 QB, right?
Yeah, he's my number 3. I think he'll probably go third
Mid-third?
round, third somewhere in the third round, so sort of late day 2.
Yeah, and I think this is where though, because you've got Mendoza, who's clearly number 1. You've got Ty Simpson, who's late round 1. Someone will probably jump up and just go, look, the benefit of having the 5th-year option and all that sort of stuff will jump up and get him real quick. Great, but maybe he could fall to the second round early and go early on the Friday. You are now looking at potentially not seeing another quarterback go off the board until the end of Friday, if not maybe even a little bit early on Saturday, because the gap between consensus wise, the gap between Ty Simpson and Garrett Nussmeier and the rest of these guys is quite large. So I'm gonna throw it out there and say I don't have Garrett Nussmeier as my number 3. I tweeted this out before, and someone said I've actually got him as my number 2, and I'm like I've got him going the other way in my board. What is it about Garrett Nussmeier, Nick, that makes him your number 3?
I can't put Carson Beck number 3 because he's crap. Ultimately,
who else do you put at 3 then? Yeah, it's
I like with Mendoza. I like Nussmeier's pocket presence. I like his ability to work in that sort of tight, confined space. I think, to be honest, and I mean no disrespect, I just think he's the best of a bad bunch of the rest. You know, I just there's nothing that sticks out to say he's miles above everybody behind him.
Yeah.
But I just think he's a little more consistent. You know, I think coach's son and all that. I think that's probably just edges him ahead. His knowledge, his actual mental, the
I think
the mental game within the actual game itself. He seems to process things quicker than the best of the rest.
I think the struggle
But
I have with Nussmeier is he's been kind of boxed in from being able to be a good QB by the team he was at, in a way. I think he was negatively affected. Similar to what we said about Ty Simpson, LSU's running game was utter trash last year, and that didn't.
Yeah.
I just think in college football, having a crap running game doesn't help QBs develop properly.
Mhm.
Because I mean, we've seen, we talked about with obviously Manning last year, and we Texans didn't have a capable running team all of last year, and that definitely didn't help Manning at all, even though, Manning was ripping off 30, 40-yard runs at times. But LSU had a similar issue in that they didn't have, was it 100, ranked 120 summit?
126th.
Yeah, like it just wasn't a good running back core as a whole.
Mhm.
But also he was kind of,
Dink and dunk, wasn't he? He was
because of
reduced to that dink and dunk aspect.
yeah, because of the way that the LSU wide receivers are, I just, it almost kind of, in terms of his tape, has kind of limited him a bit because, he didn't have the, although there were times he was doing it, I don't think he had the ability to really showcase his full talent at college. And
Right.
in a way, I think that does have a negative effect on him because, again, he was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. I know we talk about 5-star recruits and how the starring doesn't really matter at the end of the day, but to me,
I
he
think one of
was,
his strengths, and the reason I've got him third, as Nick says, his pocket presence is good, but he's got that anticipation of his throws. He doesn't have like a rocket arm. He doesn't throw with like venom and stuff like that, but he's got that. He puts the ball where the receiver's going to be
He reads
more
it well.
often. He reads very well the defense. He reads where that's going to happen.
And I think
His
that
downside is go on.
comes back to his mental, sorry, just comes back to his mental game, that he's processing things. He seems to process the situation quicker than the guys that are left, and that's what I said. That's probably what does slightly edge him ahead. Sorry, Gary, go on, carry on.
Yeah, no, just exactly that. But also the downside of him being so good at reading and anticipating is that sometimes he's already said, "Oh, this guy's going to be there. I'm throwing it," and he throws a daredevil pass, if you like, or one of those, and he tries something that he's already read and decided is going to happen, and doesn't notice that the wide receiver's fallen down, or doesn't notice that the safety's squeezed over, and he throws this sort of daredevil ball that would be amazing, but oftentimes isn't. So that's a little bit stuff like that can be worked on, but that it's that levels him above the rest. But as you say, Nick, the rest of them are all in the mix, and maybe he has suffered a lot from because of last year, and and reading that he had patella tendonitis, and that's going to probably affect him quite badly through last season. And as Sam says, having an absolute shocking running game means maybe that might be a few counter arguments because, as we said, Nussmeier was a Heisman Trophy going to be top of the class type thing, and he had a bad year, but it was the bad year because LSU were pretty bad and he had no support, and he was niggling with injuries. And did we really see the best of him? Is he now healthy? Sounds like he had a good pro day. Sounds like he's had, played well, done well at the Senior Bowl. So maybe there's a chance he might sneak slightly higher up.
I mean,
I think the biggest thing with this year's QB class is it's almost like bar Mendoza, and I would say probably in terms of, to a certain degree, Carson Beck in terms of getting to the natty and probably elevated his position probably a little bit. A lot of the QBs in this class they were good the year before, so like a lot of them didn't have good years this year, but yet the year before they had better years. So you think of like Cade Klubnik had a good year last year. I think Nussmeier had a good year last year. Drew Alar, good year last year, and then this year has just been very flat for a lot of them, and I think that's really impacted their positioning in terms of showing that they, in terms of development, it's kind of gone a bit of the curve has kind of gone down a tiny bit, and I think that's impacting the way that maybe some teams are looking at these quarterbacks.
I think for me though, what I'm going to say, because I'll play a bit of devil's advocate, because actually he's not my number 3 in this draft. He's really good. He's a coach's kid, right? His dad was a quarterback in college. He went and played for the Saints. So, and then became a coach. So he's spent most of his childhood watching film, being part of the film room. I was reading something about him about a month ago where it was like he in high school would go up to coaches 2 hours before game and say, "Oh, can I just go watch a little bit of tape before we play?" And he's got the whole receiver room in there. And he's saying, right, pre-snap, I'm going to do this. This is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to decide this. And I'm going to take that. And I'm going to go. Pre-snap, he's fantastic. He knows what he's looking for, and he knows how to set his protections, where to kill and change a play at the line of scrimmage, and how to get all those things going. My main problem with him though is after the snap. He's If I want to put any comp to Jared Goff, he's got Jared Goff's athleticism. Um, in that to say virtually none. Um,
I
he
wonder where you were going with that then. I was thinking Jared Goff.
there's a reason we call him Jared Vick. But when you his he's really improved on his ability to sense the pocket. But there are shifts he does in his movement when he steps back, and I think I was watching. Um, I watched him sense pressure coming from his blind side, which wasn't there, and then shift into the pressure that was actually coming in his face. And then the throws that he makes after that, he's got so much confidence in his arm, but it's not a good enough arm. It's okay, it's serviceable, it can do a job, but it's not near the level of Mendoza or Simpson in terms of the arm and accuracy and things like that. And my other problem with him seems to be that I was getting so frustrated watching the tape, and I'm like, look at someone else for a second and make someone think you're not throwing to exactly who you know who he's throwing to because that's who he looks at initially. And when you mention him going through his reads and watching plays develop, yeah, I saw it, but I just didn't see it at the level that it's being brought up. And in fact, if anything, I was constantly seeing, I'm like, he he knows who he's throwing to pre-snap. He's seen the look. He said, "This is what we're going into, and that's the guy that's going to get open, and I'm throwing to, and that's whether he gets open or not. That's who he's throwing to." And those were some of the things I think that I was seeing, and that frustrated me quite a bit.
I think it's almost, if you think about what Brady used to say, Brady used to say that after he'd been in the league sort of 10 years, he'd seen every possible defense. The game slowed down because he'd seen every possible defense, and he knew when teams lined up and motioned, he knew what was coming. And I think from that point, it's almost as if Nussmeier looks at the defense and goes, "Yeah, that's that, right, doing that one." Whereas he doesn't actually let it play out. He just assumes that's going to be,
Yeah,
and yeah, I can get what you say, and it's the same. It's essentially the same thing, just flipped on its head. Whereas I'm there saying I kind of like him for doing that because he's making that mental process. He's
yeah,
reading the game that little bit quicker, and that's why he's doing that.
yeah,
But yeah, I also get that on the flip side of the coin, he's at times he's reading it too quickly, and he's not letting the play develop
yeah,
where there
He's,
might be a
he's,
better receiver.
he's not necessarily seeing the little like slight
Nuances of the
movement that
play,
say like
yeah.
yeah, like the slight movements that the safety might make and things like that. And
Yeah.
that's probably where
yeah.
that's the limitation that he has at the moment.
I think I want to say one of the differences, obviously, like well, Brady's a different animal. He went to a far better school anyway, so he'll know things from a very different perspective. But with obviously Brady's then able to spend when you're in the NFL. That's your full-time job. You're not going
Yeah.
doing underwater basket weaving at 4 o'clock, and that's a 2 hour lecture that you've got to do. You are the 24/7. If you are not in the weight room or at practice, you're probably watching film, or if you're Kyler Murray playing Call of Duty. This is where, see, but having him know how to watch film and be able to process film and be able to process things at the line. Yeah, you've not seen everything. You're not Tom Brady. You've not been in the NFL 10 years. You've not watched that much film. Like that's a massive asset to any team. And with all due respect, if you're going into the league as a backup, you've got to bring summit to the table. And one of those things is going to be you're going to be shit hot in the film room when if you're backing up Aaron Rodgers. Okay, you probably not too much you can say to Aaron Rodgers at that point. But if you're backing up certain people in the league where you're watching film with them, you're gonna be a great asset. Like I say, it's just it comes from the point of more often than not it works against some of the more simpler defenses. It works, and on most plays it probably works. But on the better defenses you're gonna play, disguises are going to be done, pre-snap motions are going to be different, and the NFL defenses are they're on a ridiculous level of smart and how to cover and disguise and move things and do things in a way that throws the best quarterbacks on the planet off. So yeah, that's my thing. It's great to be able to read the defense beforehand, and in college it will work a lot, and you get better at it in the NFL. It will start to work, but when you are focused on that, okay, my wide receiver in the slot, that's going to be my read. You need another read, and you need to go to one of the don't. But I will put then in the as far as his accuracy and that goes, what he doesn't throw is hospital balls, and he knows where to throw. So when he does see those plays develop, especially if he's leaning it forward, if he can see one safety coming over the top, one safety coming, he knows the place to put it in. He's not going to put it and make the receiver chase it into the safety. He's not going to throw it behind. He's going to throw it in the space where the receiver needs it to be to make the best possible catch in the safest possible way. And that's something I really, really like about him.
Yeah.
But then again, his size as well is small for what you would consider to be an NFL keeper. He's like what 6'1",
6'2",
230. 230. Is he 230 or 235?
6'2", 203.
Okay, so yeah, very smaller frame. So if you get hit by an Aaron like a JJ Watt with that, or a Miles Garrett with that frame, good luck. Going on,
So
I know.
I was going to say, who was your number three then if you didn't have Nussmeier at number three?
I was going between, and I don't have a static number three. It's been Nussmeier. Hasn't been Nussmeier for 2 days. At the moment, believe it or not, it's back. But it rotates on the basis of, and I think I'm going to echo back to what Nick said in the once you get to this section, you are dealing with it's so much closer between everybody at what they do. It's gonna come down to a personal everyone does one thing better than the
Yeah, it
other.
comes down to
What's the
scheme fit
what's the thing
and
that you prefer
person.
them to be able to do? And none of them, other than Taylor Green, would you particularly say a great athlete. Carson Beck is not a great athlete who's gonna be escaping the pocket and doing incredible things. So it's going to come down to what are some of the other things that I think you prefer. And I think where I come from with Beck is coming from the Georgia system and going and doing what he did with Miami was slightly better for me in terms of, I guess, what he's done with on the field as well.
Yeah, I
But
think
this time will change.
that's why I find Beck below Nussmeier is how many times earlier in the year did we talk about Beck being flushed out the pocket and panicking because he can't throw to his first read or he can't throw to
Yeah,
his
he's off.
second,
Once he's off
you
his
know.
rhythm, he's not anywhere
Yeah,
near
he's
as
Yeah,
got
good as he
we
is.
said
platforms
quite a few
all over.
times, certainly in the playoffs, because I remember us having the conversation. We said about if you're going to beat Miami, you have to get through their offensive line quickly because you've got to get Carson Beck
Yeah.
You got
off
to get him off
his
platform.
yeah, and so that's why the likes of Bell and Ruben Jr. and that was so important is because and Maui Noah were that they were the ones that had to make sure that platform, that pocket stayed for Beck because as soon as you pushed him off his chosen play, he panicked,
Struggles,
and
panics.
that's one of the biggest reasons why I couldn't put him at 3.
Yeah.
I do
Yeah.
think as well with Beck is his arm strength is limited in
Yes.
comparison
Since
to
he had
others, and that's
since he had his operation.
yeah, and you can
Yeah.
see it's really impact, especially sort of his deep ball threat is, we saw it. It was one of the early games where he tried to throw one deep, and it was
Just such a lame
so
duck
Underthrown.
bad.
throw, wasn't it? It was so
It was
bad.
just
Yeah.
so bad, and I think that's, I mean, obviously that's something that
Plus the fact
build
he's
up
about
strength you can work
97, isn't he?
Well, yeah, there's
he
that.
can build a bit of strength up in terms of just hitting the weights and that, obviously, and it's not just that simple, but he could build that up again. But for me, I mean, I think one of the big things in terms of quarterback ability is that ability to throw different types of balls and deep balls, short routes. You've got to be able to do a good wide range, and I think when you're coming into the league, if you can't throw a deep ball or it's a it appears like it comes across like it's a bit of a noodle ball, that's gonna really put some teams off.
Yeah.
Realized how long this conversation has gone on for, and it's a great
We've only got to
conversation.
we've
Don't
only
get me
really
wrong.
got to number 4. It's
And
like
Nick and I did so well. We kept an episode to under an hour last week. We've been bringing the episode times
So it's
down.
not our fault. It's not our
It's not our
fault.
fault. We can't blame us anymore.
wow, I've barely got a word in edgeways anyway, Sam. I don't know how you feel about it.
But what I think, so what we're gonna do, we can. I wanted to wrap up some of this quarterback talk with some. I guess if you can try and go through in a few sentences some of the really late prospects, and how you see some of them, if any of them
I think
catch your
Geraldo's
eye a
got a
little bit.
chance. I think Geraldo's got a chance of maybe climbing the boards now that he's healthy and he's thrown. I think he threw at the combine. I think he's thrown at the pro day and stuff. I think he's got a chance of rekindling some interest because obviously pre his injury he was quite highly thought of. I know he had a bit of a stinker leading into it, but I think he's got a chance of kind of climbing up into that whole mix. But he's not far off that Nussmeier Beck mix anyway. And as we said, the weird anomaly athlete is the one that I think has got the chance, as Nick says, of getting a bit of love from some GMs and getting a bit of love from the coaches to start to climb those boards. And with the measurements he put out at the combine, somebody's going to take a flyer on him on the 5th round or something, just to kind of go, oh, we'll bring him in as a backup 3rd string QB, but we'll try him at
I mean,
whatever nickelback tight end, whatever he's going to end up being.
somebody that excites me who isn't on my board because I only go to 7 and he would be my number 8 is Luke Altmaier of Illinois.
Yeah.
I think he's he was stuck at Ole Miss and then he goes back to that thing that we said about sometimes you've got to leave the big schools and go to a smaller school to guarantee your play time. But since making that move, he's improved season on season. You can see how playing each game has allowed him to progress, and he's not the tallest QB. I mean, he's at 6'2", but he's set. He's got good footwork. He's hard to sort of knock off. And I just like that the guy has potential, and
Yeah.
not every first round pick is going to be a success.
Yeah.
And a lot of UDFAs and a lot of 7th round picks actually make a good career. And I think
Journeyman career. Yeah.
he's got a even if he doesn't make it in the NFL, he's that sort of guy that will have a
Go to the
great career in
CFL, UFL.
CFL or XFL. He will be able to earn money playing the sport because
Right.
he's got the traits that are attractive to a team somewhere.
Right.
What about Diego Pavia?
As I want to say, as a network, by the way, we cover the UFL. Can we please, like, can we appropriately call it the UFL, not the XFL, because you're making the
Oh,
network
the
look bad here.
UFL, sorry.
Sam's done it as well, so I just want to put it out there. We need to be consistent with what we cover as a network. Do you know what? I'm glad you mentioned him, Gary, because I wanted to mention him and say that I don't really, I really interested to see what happens with him because he well, I don't think he's going to ridiculously climb up the board.
Mark.
He's going to be 25 at the draft. He's going to be,
Who's this we're talking about? Sorry.
Diego Pavia.
Didn't quite
Diego
catch.
Pavia.
Oh,
He's going to be
okay, yeah.
25 by the time the draft happens.
Career's
And
pretty much over then, isn't
the
it?
questions around his um what are we going to
Ego.
call it, character.
Ego.
Character.
You'll have to.
Um we'll throw it. What I'm really interested to see, I think if he got obviously if he goes, he'll go on day 3. He'll be one of those where I might just have to set an alert for him on my phone for if his name pops up and goes.
Cleveland.
Because like I have to turn off tweets for me and Rappaport and Adam Schefter and all that. I normally have the notifications on, but like they'll tweet out every single pick, and like I don't care who the Cardinals take in round third pick of round 6. I just don't. Um, and I don't want that notification anyway. But like, when it comes to Pavia, I'm really interested to see if he even goes at all
Yeah.
because I
I
think he
don't think he'll
really
get drafted.
I
No,
think
I
he has
think
a
he's going to
real
end up being a UDFA.
yeah, he has a real prospect to be a UDFA, but I also think he's one of those weird ones who could end up going at like the end of round 5 and somehow go quite a bit earlier than any of us really predicted because someone thinks I'll take a flyer on him.
Hmm.
And
I from I was to say the one person I really am interested to see where he goes and at what point is Cole Payton
Yeah.
because
yeah,
you know
NDSU.
yeah, came out of
he's
nowhere this year.
yeah and I mean he's obviously North Dakota State they're not we're an FCS team get that right
Yeah,
Mm.
so I just want to see where he goes because it's he's not going to go high but he again he's one of these interesting ones where he's a dual threat quarterback and we look at all the other quarterbacks in this class that for me that aren't too met that they're very limited in terms of like that dual style quarterback in terms
yeah,
of higher up. Um, and I think he could be a really interesting one to keep an eye on as to whether he potential. I mean, he's again, he's going to be another one. He's probably going to be a day 3 pick, but he could be someone. He could be, and he's just one that I'm really interested to see where he lands because you look at some of these later picks. Obviously, again, don't want to talk too much about Brady, but Brady obviously was a 5th round pick, and it's like he he has the some attributes that really could make him an interesting player in the NFL, but he also has a lot that he still needs to work on. That's why he's not. I don't think he's going to necessarily be. He's probably going to end up being a very much like a journeyman backup. But I like that. I like his profile in terms of how he appeal like as a different, not a different option to the others that are available.
yeah. Nick, did you want to
And
close out with it? Sorry,
it's
go on.
also just one of those kind of stories, isn't it? An FCS quarterback going at I don't know
3.
anywhere from between QB 4 to 8 off the
Not
board.
not 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 third in the draft. Then you mean? No.
No, no,
Nobody would silly enough to take an NDSU QB that high in the draft, would they?
I think ultimately, we've just, in this chat here, we've just established that outside of these first two, it's a shooting gallery
Yeah.
because
no.
Yeah,
it's personal preference. It's what you're
Did you
looking
like the
for. If
kid
you
when he came for an interview or not?
Yeah,
Did you? Yeah.
if you like if you like a mobile guy, then you're going to be a slightly higher on some people than you are on others. If you rely on your QB to, you know, play off, you know, off scheme and you know, elaborate and sort of change at the line of scrimmage, then you're going to be more on the other. So I
yeah,
think it's quite interesting this year to see how people read the rest of the group.
Yeah. Um, Absolutely. I think that's a really good way to kind of wrap up the quarterback talk. We can't get too much into it now, but we have to at least talk about the running backs because we promised the people, guys, we promised the people
Promise.
that
Give
we
the
would
people
mention
what they want.
running backs. And again, I'm going to throw this straight to Nick, not only because Nick has done well, just if you're on YouTube, look at the board.
Just look at the
If you
board.
watch
Just
the
look at the
evolution of the
board.
board, Nick deserves all of the praise and love for it, but also because there is a clear number one in this class as well for a running back, and
It's a
Nick
clear
knows him
1-2, isn't it?
better than anybody else. So tell us why Clemson's Adam Randall is the clear number one.
Nick
Well,
hangs up.
he may be the clear number one in a group of running backs, but he is not the running back. That belongs to Jeremiyah Love. Now, I kind of, in a way, I kind of feel a little bit for Jaden Price, who is
Yeah,
probably by far and
Probably
away the second
RBT
best.
number 2.
Yeah, he's probably by far and away the second best running back in the draft, and the guy could barely get on the field because Jeremiyah Love was so. And what makes Jeremiyah Love so good is his ability, not necessarily as a running back, but as a catching back. He could break off his route, come outside, and he's there available for the ball. And the amount of times that, especially this year, CJ Carr would send Jeremiyah Love one way. He's gone looking the other way, and he knows exactly where Love's going to be, and he almost like blind passes it backwards, and he knows that Jeremiyah Love's going to be there to catch it because Love's speed and acceleration off the line. It's I can't say enough about him because I think he's such a superstar.
yeah,
A consensus best player of the draft,
yep,
almost.
Second
Just
best for me.
second best, yeah.
Yeah,
I was going to.
behind
He's in that mix.
Caleb Downs.
yeah. And this is where again I think as if you listen to this podcast, you're more of a college person, but you will know the NFL, unlike the vice versa, where you can say a lot of NFL people won't necessarily know college. It just there isn't the same amount of people who do. So you'll know generally how drafts work and how big boards work and all that sort of stuff. If you are though, and you are one of those NFL people who are trying to get into college, and this is kind of your first year or two getting into this kind of thing, one of the things you need to remember is like the number one pick isn't always the best prospect. It's normally there's a reason why it's the quarterback. Normally a quarterback, and it's because they're the best at the
Most
most
important position.
position. And teams that are picking number one overall tend to be in a very bad team. That's why they need a quarterback, and that's how they see it. The number one player in the draft tends to be someone who will go in the top 5. Last year it was what was
Giants
his name?
Abdul Carter.
No, Travis Hunter.
Travis Hunter.
Yeah,
Travis
In my
Hunter.
opinion, it was Travis Hunter, the best player in the draft, and then they'll tend to go top 5, but that's just because they are the best, most talented, but they're not necessarily at the position that the next team needs, or the team picking first overall needs.
yeah.
So
It's one of those where it's like you tend to find that the first 2 to 3 picks are we need this player, and then it's for whoever's fourth and fifth, it's best available. Who's
yeah,
the best available player left on the board?
yeah.
So you look at Jeremiyah Love, and he probably is, on some people he will be number one, but for me he's the second best in the draft. But for me his window doesn't open until at least number 4.
4, 5, 6, yeah.
Yeah,
Because the
or
teams
maybe even number
drafting there,
7.
yeah, the teams drafting
So
above don't need a running back. Raiders
exactly.
don't need one.
and
Jets, who knows what the Jets need, really? They've got a bigger need than everything.
Everything.
Right?
but that they've at least got a Brees Hall in the building.
Exactly.
Um, and Arizona are just, yeah, they have way too many things that they need as well.
Yeah.
But I mean,
And
Tennessee would be a great landing place for him.
Yeah.
What was that, sorry, Sam?
I would say, yeah, I mean, Arizona, although they have been potentially looking at him, I mean, they've still technically got, is it Trey Benson, who they picked up a
Benson
couple of
from the
years ago?
FSU a
So,
couple of years ago. Yeah, he's kind of barely even kicked
I
the
know he's
tires
been
on him
obviously
yet. So
injured and stuff, but
And I think,
um,
yeah, but when you've got the where Arizona are in comparison to where, say, Tennessee are in their roster building, an elite defensive player
yeah,
would be a way better addition for them than a really elite running back.
yeah.
And but yeah, after four, apart from
Giants don't need
five,
a running back. They got Scatterbo.
they've got
They're not going to
Scatterball.
take him.
Cleveland, I think they've
Who
got
knows?
other needs that they need as
They've
well,
got
don't
yeah,
other
they?
needs. They've got other needs, but
And
they've
they've
got to
got
build that.
they've
They've
only
got to
got
build
so
that
many
O line.
picks.
We're going to build their O line to protect one of their 20 quarterbacks.
Yeah, I was gonna say they've got at least three quarterbacks to pick and only
so
so many
they'll
picks.
take Drew Allard probably then at four, at
Yeah,
six.
and then they'll take Sawyer Robertson uh in round five. But
Tell you, God forbid God forbid these teams let Caleb Downs drop to 9 and go to the Kansas City Chiefs.
Don't, Jesus.
I will lose my
Well, this
no,
Bengals.
shit
I
because
if
mean, the
that
this
thing
is
is,
happens.
Bengals are at 10, right? The Chiefs are at 9, and Bengals are at 10.
Yeah,
Bengals should, if he's still there at 8, the Bengals have to make a move. They cannot let the Chiefs get him.
I
you
think
let
the
the
thing
Chiefs
is
get
that
Downs, and they are laughing their
They're
asses
back. They're
off.
back again,
before
aren't they?
before free agency, I think the Chiefs were one of the two teams that were looking at Love
Yes,
realistically, and then obviously they got Kenneth Walker. I think Saints again were another one that was certainly heavily considered as a landing
yeah,
spot for Love. There is still the possibility he could, because there is talks that AK could
Mara's
retire.
done here,
I
isn't he?
don't think they will. Obviously, they've got Travis Achan. Get his
Etienne,
name
Trevor
right.
Etienne,
yes, get his name
Etienne,
right.
Achan.
Travis Etienne.
Um,
Yeah,
so obviously they've got him in the door. So again, that rules them out from needing a running back. So, and this is where we start to see. I
does
mean,
start
yes,
to look like the Titans, doesn't it?
he's the number one running back on the board, but that doesn't necessarily mean he. I mean, he's, and running back's one of those positions where, because of the
They're
short.
almost the final piece that you put in a team, aren't they? You need
I
a
think
team that's got a
it's
QB, a decent O
it's not
line.
it's not even that. I just think that when you look at positions, we talk about, like some of these positions. I don't think running back is seen as valuable a position in terms of
No,
that elite star player. Like that, a lot of teams are moving to much more of a
Community based.
one
Yeah.
and two
I
running
think
back situation.
I think it's a supply and demand
Mm,
market, because there are so many running backs actually active in the league, and then when you think there's probably the best part of 50, 60 running backs coming out of college every year,
mm,
it's that it's that one position where it is so rich in actual numbers that it sort of floods the market and devalues the better ones.
mm.
Yeah.
And
and
so to
yeah,
be an amazing running back, you have to be absolutely
and
top of your game. The Ashton Gentrys, the Jeremiah Loves, they're the guys that get the recognition. If you are not top of your game, you are not going to be anywhere close to the
you
top, because you just can't do it.
you have to be more than a running back as well,
Yeah,
right? And if you're gonna, we're not talking about like your traditional halfbacks, and you need to be able to block and all that sort of stuff, because that's what those one, they're not flashy, and they're not. You can get them a dime a dozen in free agency for cheap. You can get them a dime a dozen at the end of the draft. They're not bothered about that. What is very, very hard to find, because there are only one or two that ever come out in a draft in any given year, are those who, like you said about Love, are very much assets in the passing game as well, can run routes and be home run hitters. Now, you don't just watch highlights, and this is the one thing is always like when people ask me how do I do it, like, how do I understand players and what do I do to look at a player if they're going into the draft? I always say don't watch highlights, because they're going to be the number one overall pick, and then you'll go watch someone else's highlights, and then they'll be the number one overall pick in your because everyone looks great on the highlights. You watch their full game tapes, you type in Jeremiah Love versus, and then you watch all the snaps they played in one game, rather than because then you see the snaps where he didn't get the ball, where it was a passing play, and you go watch if he goes and blocks, and you can do all that sort of stuff. Not just because you have to be a general high percentage home run hitter, but then also be an asset in the passing game. And the last time we had a couple of them in a single draft was Bijan Robinson and Jameer Gibbs, who are
Hmm.
both very, very good players, but you don't get them very often to be genuinely a lot of both. And like you say there, Nick, when there's a if you want a running back with just about anything, they're a dime a dozen. And they don't get paid a lot. So
Yeah, if you just want a
they're
guy
not
to just basically run the hard yards, you could put in a lot of running backs in terms of like just
yeah.
constant running at the line, trying to bulldoze your way through.
If
Whereas
you
it's
if
the
you want
ones that do
yeah,
everything.
it's the if you want someone to go get 2, 3 yards running between tackles, yeah, you can find them just about
I mean,
anywhere.
I don't want to disrespect any running back or anything. I'm not.
No,
You
no,
know, but me personally, if I was a GM, I would not consider taking a running back till at least round 5, if not round 6, because
Mm.
I see it as a position that is wasted on a higher pick unless he is absolutely elite. But as Sam said, if that's the case, if you're looking for that running back who's absolutely elite, that's because the rest of your team's built and ready to go, and that's the last piece.
Mm.
Otherwise, you have other needs that you need to be picking high up, and that's why me personally, I'll never pick a running back that's higher than round 5.
I think if you put on that though as well, you look at the difference in as great as Bijan Robinson is, and you look at Jameer Gibbs. Jameer Gibbs has had the better career because the Falcons weren't ready to put someone like a Bijan Robinson in yet, and they were struggling already with the assets that they'd put in your Kyle Pittses and um because Bijan Robinson is so good, and he obviously he's picked up like what
His
more
his
scrimmage yards than
his
anyone
ceil
else this year.
yeah, his ceiling was much is I would say is higher than
Yeah,
Gibbs's in terms of, but I think Gibbs's floor for what the team needed
yeah,
at the time was so much higher than what Bijan's was. But
yeah,
the problem is that I mean I said it for what was it 2 or 3 years they just weren't using Bijan the way they needed to use Bijan because they just weren't using him. They were
yeah.
choosing Algier over him and stuff, and that was the big issue there. But
But
yeah, I mean I think with Jeremiah Love, I think Tennessee's probably going to be the position he goes now. I think after that, if Tennessee decide to not go with Love, I would probably say Washington may be a good spot for him. Again, they're in a team that, if we look at them 2 years ago when, under Jalen Daniels, his first year, they looked good. And then this year it kind of fell apart with multiple injuries. Obviously, Jalen Daniels didn't play much due to injury. They lost Eckler to a serious injury, but his career's pretty much done now. Uh, they obviously got rid of Brian Robinson. He went to the Niners. They could be in the market for a running back, and if Love drops to them, I wouldn't be surprised if he went there.
Mm.
But at the same
yeah,
time, it seems like Tennessee is the right place for him now, which would obviously be the fourth overall pick.
Yeah.
yeah. Um, just want to throw out there. We'll throw out a couple of names because we do want to just. Jeremiah Love's amazing, but we do need to talk about others that aren't Jeremiah Love for a minute.
On what's Nick's board looking like? What's his top
Yeah, what's your
six?
board there saying?
Jeremiah Love, Jaden Price, Emmett Johnson, Jonah Coleman, Mike Washington, Seth McGowan, and Nicholas Singleton. Seth
Interesting.
McGowan's quite an interesting story.
Seth
He's a
McGowan's
guy.
in.
Go on.
So I was gonna say Seth. I just want to do this. 'Cause I've got the NFL mock draft database.com big board up, Seth McGowan's all the way down in 172, whereas Mike Washington's up at 64 right at the end of the second round. It's quite interesting to see how like you've got Seth
Yeah.
McGowan so much. The contrast there's really, really interesting.
See, I think Seth McGowan's an older running back. This is another. This goes back to another point. It goes about age. Now, Seth McGowan was a gamer. He sat in his house. He sat in his house and barely ever went outside. He wasn't going to college, and his brother he was getting into trouble with people, and he ended up doing some time in prison for being a naughty boy. And then his older brother got hold of him, took him to the gym, started working him out, and then he walked on to college he went to college as a walk on and got a gig as a running back and never looked back. And I just think that's a story of redemption,
Yeah.
and how even from the bottom of despair you can turn your life around. And he's got the chance to make a real good living now. And
Yeah,
that's what I maybe I'm being a bit soft in the fact that I'm putting him on the board when I could put somebody else on. But I think it's a nice story.
Yeah.
He's There's nothing that says he shouldn't be on that board based on his ability.
yeah,
So it's like, what makes me look at him different to everybody else? And I just think his journey through life, and his when when you've had nothing and then you have something, you work so hard to not let that go.
Yeah.
yeah,
You fight
And I
harder for
just
it.
think, you know, Max Crosby talks about how he's first in the facility at the Raiders at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning. And players want to be like him, and they'll turn up and train with him for like a couple of days, and then they end up sleeping in and what have you. And I
Yeah.
just think that sort of thing with McGowan,
yeah.
if he grabs hold of that with two hands, grabs hold of a chance with two hands, doesn't matter which team he ends up at, he is gonna ball out and just keep working so hard that he's the
Yeah.
kind
Yeah,
of
So
guy that you want.
yeah, someone's
absolutely.
going to be get lucky there, as you say. He'll probably get
Yeah,
a late round flyer, a sixth round or something. He's still going to be there. They'll read into that history and stuff, and they'll go, okay, well, let's give him a shot. And as you say, he'll probably grab that shot with both hands and give them everything.
Well, yeah, and one thing I'd say to that, Nick, as well, is just when you look at what are they called now? I can't remember the word. You've got the actual skill sets, the abilities, the culture, but the
The
intangibles,
intangibles.
intangibles. That word was in great. That's all the only word Dan Campbell used to say other than biting kneecaps for the first like 2 years. Um, we talk about intangibles, but you taking especially when, and you can take this back to the quarterback chat, when there are a lot of players in a particular position group that are all clumped together, it's going to come down to, well, what's the one or two things you prefer in terms of the skill set that they've got? Are they closer to a home run hitter, or are they going to be your punch them in the mouth? They'll get a couple of yards in between the tackles every time. They'll fight for every yard type player. But those intangibles in there, as you have said, kid's got to work for everything. He's
Hmm.
never going to
yeah.
expect a thing, but when you turn up, you know he's going to put in more effort than anybody else. He's going to be as more great, and he's going to put it. Is the amount of work you're going to put in. So I actually think, to be fair, if you incorporate that, then absolutely you should be on that board
I
and go up
think
a couple of spots.
I think if you think about, I'm going to bring up two names, one that's currently in the league, although I don't know how long for, and one that's not in the league anymore. In James Pearce Jr. from last year,
Hmm.
he's got his own issues at the moment, and Henry Ruggs. We don't need to go.
Yes.
We don't need to go in what happened to Henry Ruggs,
Hmm.
but there is two incidences, completely different, completely unrelated, but that is two instances where the players, through whatever reason, have found themselves getting caught up in issues that they shouldn't have been caught up in. Whereas that has already kind of happened to McGowan, and he's
Yeah.
come out the other side and he's worked his ass off to get back to, or get to where he is. I don't think you'll find him slipping back into that sort of danger zone again. He'll just work. He'll just work through it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Um, yeah, I think it's a good catch as well, and you add on the fact that you add on your skill set and the intangibles and all that sort of stuff in terms of a draft perspective. Great, but also, like I say, the story, it's one you want to root for. You want someone to get
Yeah,
that opportunity. You want that for people. So I'm absolutely with you there on that as well. There are a lot of running backs, and you go for it. There's a
Oh,
run. They start to pick up after 90. If I
yeah,
look at this big board here, they start to pick up after 90. Really pick up a bit after 120, 130. And then once you hit 200, it's like you could
Free
see
for
a
all. You
run
just
of 15
barrel.
running
It's
backs
just
in the next
big.
40
Yeah,
picks.
absolutely.
Um,
Do you
and
think Washington's going to climb with his 440 speed? Nick, do you
yes,
think that's going to be enough to get him to
um,
go?
yeah. I from what I've heard, he might be the another guy that the Patriots are looking at,
Mm.
because they need a third running back now, and they need someone different to Stevenson and Henderson, and Washington would bring that skill set. But
Yeah.
again, you know, like um like Fletch said, the fact that Washington's up in the 60s, well, the Patriots, for example, their needs through the top 100 are more than a running back. So he's not going to be around if they're going based on needs. That he's not going to be around by the time they come round to picking a running back.
I think there's a lot of teams that are in that situation this year as well. I mean, obviously we've already talked about the fact that there's that many there's such a dilution of running backs in the league at the moment, and I don't think that the running backs in this class, although some of them have some some good skill sets and talents to add to the NFL, there's none that really jump out to me in terms of like bar Jeremiah Love and probably Jadarian Price to a certain degree, who you would probably say I'd take them earlier than probably in a position where I wouldn't normally go. The others, I think, probably are those ones which they'll drop down and just get picked up as like a third round or fourth round or fifth round, where we're starting to get into the realms of it's a little bit of a dart throw. What do we need to add depth to our team? And that's where I think that a lot of these players will go. I think maybe I say Jadarian Price, Emmett Johnson's an interesting one. I'd like to see if he could be one that could. I think he's the only one that has so far what I've seen has the stock to potentially challenge Jadarian Price for the number 2 running back spot. I don't think he will, but he's the only one I think because on the flip, on one side he had a monster season, but then is it a one season wonder sort of guy?
Yeah, I mean, I say this to a lot of people that don't just watch the underwear Olympics and think that's the be all and end all,
mm,
because Fletch said then about how you go about and you look at tape and it's this guy versus whatever team, and then you watch all his snaps and what have you. You trust the tape. Trust what you see in the game in, game out in a season. That is what you base your concrete evidence on. And then you just look at what you watch the underwear Olympics and say, yeah, I can see where that transitional speed comes from. It's like, yeah, great. I ran a 40-yard dash in however long. Great. Well, chances are, if you're running 40 yards in a straight line, I guarantee you either something has gone very right or something has gone very wrong, depending on what
Yeah.
side of the ball you're on. So the chances of you needing to run 40 yards in a straight line, so it's much
rare,
more
isn't it?
the change of direction, your 3-cone drill. they're the sort of drills that you want to pay attention to. Not necessarily. Yes, the 40-yard dash will get the glory sort of thing, but that's not necessarily something that screams out at me. And I just think there's Washington hit a great pace. Yes, so he's fast, brilliant. But if you can't run fast through a wall. You just hit a
Yeah,
wall and that's it. You either go
running
through it
backs
or you bounce off it.
running backs have what 10, not even 10 yards, like 5 yards of explosion before they hit
Yeah.
something.
And
If
that's
that,
that's where you're key. So it's like when you're watching the 40-yard dash, I don't really care what the 40-yard time is. I'm looking at that 10-yard split time. That's probably where the most interesting bit of it is. But
Mm,
You get 5 yards of explosion time if you have a top three O line. If you
mm.
don't, then you have
A second.
-3 yards of explosion time and a tackle for
Mm,
loss, unfortunately. Um, I'm really interested by some of these late round draft picks though, and again with teams who will take a late round running back. I see the Lions potentially taking one myself because as much as we've just got Pacheco um on a 1 year 1.7 million deal, I think you're looking at potentially again when you're looking at losing Damo, you look at someone who can run in between tackles and get a couple of yards. That's what Damo used to do, and Jameer Gibbs was the home run hitter. I mean, you're still looking for one of them, and that's kind of what you're gonna get there. Is a lot of those. You are getting a lot of those bruises and a lot of those between the tackles type running backs, and that's where a lot of the value lies in this draft, in that kind of position. So it'd be fun to see the way they line up and the way they start going off the board because it's one of those you've got, as with every draft, some positions are very top heavy, not very deep. Some of those positions are very, very deep positions in terms of the talent level, and some of them are average and not great. So it's going to be interesting to see, I think, the way they fall.
so I have a question.
Go on.
Can someone tell me which running back in this year's draft is related to a Hollywood actor?
It's not Jonah Coleman, is it?
No. Do
No.
you remember? I'll bring this up because we were talking
CJ
about it
Baxter?
last. No, we were talking about it last week, Fletch. What did you watch for the first time last week, having never seen it before? Admit to everybody what. Go on, come on. What had you never seen
I
till last
watched
week?
for the first time ever last week, Remember the Titans.
Right.
I still
So
haven't seen
get out.
Wow.
Makes me feel a little
them.
bit
Right.
better.
Wow.
So in
Amazing, by
Remember
the
the
way.
Titans, Sam won't get this scene, but Gary's with me, and Fletch will be with me. In Remember the Titans, when Denzel Washington has turned up and he's the coach and he's going through his team, and Petey, who's
Oh,
a
I think I
who's a
figured
little
it out.
black fella,
I figured it out.
and he's smiling and he's happy and he's there to play football. And Denzel Washington says, "Why are you smiling?" And he goes, "Because football's fun." And he goes, "Football's not fun. That's Rush. That's Faison. His
Donald
son is
Faison's
Rashul
son. I'm
Faison,
sure.
who's a
Yeah.
running back for South Carolina."
Yeah.
No
I was,
way.
as soon
Ah,
as you started mentioning it and I looked there and I saw Russell Faison, I was like, oh, because Donald Faison is the second to main character in one of my top two, three television programs of all time. So,
And it's
um,
one of the closest kept secrets in the draft. No, very few people know it.
wow.
so I
I only
can't
found it
wait.
deep in IMDb. I barely found it.
I can't wait for the video of him getting the draft call, and you'll have Donald Faison and Zach Braff there. I think they should do the Eagle um at some point just to celebrate, because obviously, well, they're like best mates, aren't they, in real
Yeah,
life? So,
Yeah.
um, yeah.
but
Okay,
there you
with
go.
that, that's That's the real trivia of the week.
That's
the real
the
trivia
winning one,
question.
isn't it? Yeah.
Appreciate
I
it.
like
Right.
to bring some. I like to bring something to the table.
You already bring a lot, and then you just bring more and then make us all feel bad for not bringing nearly as much. So with that in mind, I think that's where we're gonna wrap it up on we were doing so well on times, lads. Given the
And
way
then
the
Sam and
episode's
I came
gone,
back. Yeah, whatever.
I think it's the nature of the episodes, and this is probably gonna be this way for a couple more weeks. Because it's the nature of going through these
Yeah.
positions and
Some of the lists might be quicker than others to go through, but
probably,
QBs
yeah.
and RBs are so high on everyone's agenda, and there's so much to talk about, and people need to
Also,
understand
we
some of
should
the
be able to
differences.
we should be able to rattle through punters and kickers within about 20 minutes, surely.
If anybody drafts a punter and
30
kicker out of this
seconds.
one,
There's some punters. There's some kickers.
They
nobody
are
should be
they
wasting a
are
draft
people
pick on
too.
any of them.
unless
They are
yeah,
people too.
yes, they are.
Gary
Sam.
would know all about wasting draft picks on kickers.
I mean, drafting an NDSU quarterback too high, drafting a kicker too high, you name it. I've got the scars.
To be fair, I'm not gonna get on Gary because I quite like an FSU kicker occasionally. The one we've got is actually doing all right.
The FSU kickers recently has been the only thing that's been
Borregales.
worth. It's the only thing that's been worth
Nick,
drafting out of FSU recently.
Nick, you've got to remember
Yes.
that FSU kickers are getting the best, most valuable reps at FSU these days.
Yeah.
That's
So,
fair.
um,
But
The
when we
punters are. The
drafted
punters are for sure.
Borregales last year, I was like, hang on a minute, this guy spends all year in Florida, right? You're asking him to go up to Boston. Can he kick on a cold Wednesday night in Stoke? I don't know, but
Oh
fair
yes, he
play to the
can.
guy, he
Oh
can.
yes, he can. Yeah, he can kick it wherever he goes. Anyway,
yes,
punters and kickers
so
will be a very short episode. Maybe you can wrap it into the O-line episode.
yes, probably. Right, okay, that's where we're gonna leave it. Don't forget, join the Discord, join our free to join. March Madness
March
bracket.
Madness.
That's going to be a load of fun. I will be watching a lot of that. We don't really cover college basketball. Obviously, we don't really cover college basketball. So between my account and the AAW_CFB account, I will be following along with some of the March Madness. If you're into college basketball and fancy telling me how it really goes down, I will be. You can come and educate me. With that, we'll see you next week. Yeah, links in the description of the episode, and we will see you next week.
So long.